Frank looked up at the address on the letter he got. He looked around the place. He was already uncomfortable taking a job as far as Pennsylvania, but he wanted to get away from his home in New York. That was when he saw a classified in the newspaper, needing a security guard in a home for the criminally insane in Pennsylvania. It was 1963, and Frank had been a war veteran who barely lived off his pension. That wasn't enough to sustain his family. This new job, for being a night security guard, paid strongly more than a regular night guard would. Plus, they preferred ex-military, and that seemed like the best opportunity for Frank. With a relatively easy on-the-phone interview, he got the job. But after seeing the place, Frank doubted if he had made the right choice. The asylum was very far away from any type of civilization. He learned that there were only 2 buses which passed by the place, and other than that, unless you have your own transport, you'd have to walk for miles and miles on end. The house looked more like a mansion, 3 stories high with crooked and dirty wood, but looked sturdy enough. He approached the main desk and was immediately shown around this place and his quarters. At the moment, Frank was the only night security guard on duty, and he refused to tell why the others quit, but one of the staff members said they did so because of the pay. Frank had a hard time believing that, because the pay he got was extremely good for the job, and in the back of his head, he still wondered why. As he was checking out the place, a giddy girl holding a teddy bear came up to him and introduced herself as Anne. Frank was delighted to meet the girl, but soon realized that she was too young to be there, especially in a place for the criminally insane. After she had left, he asked around each of the caretakers about Anne, but none of them had much clue about her. She was there long before even they got hired. One of the oldest caretakers informed Frank that she was probably one of the first patients to be admitted into the institute, and was probably there when she was a child. But even that caretaker didn't know why she was there. Frank brushed the thought off and resumed his work. It was night, and now he was on duty. As he was strolling through the corridor, he noticed that he was alone in the place. The whole mansion had a creepy vibe to it, and to add to that, some of the patients would make strange noises now and then. Frank went near a window to light a cigarette, but then he saw something. He saw that Anne was walking out of the house and towards the garden in front. He tried calling her, but she didn't respond. Frank quickly descended the stairs and out of the mansion, only to find her missing. He looked around and saw Anne was now standing by the window where he was. He then ran back in, and behold, she was missing from there too. Later, when he checked her room, he noticed she was sleeping inside soundly. That night concluded with no other incident. When he told his co-workers about this, they laughed it off, saying it was Frank's first night in the place. Maybe he was creeped out by it, and for a second he bought it. The next night, however, things would change. He woke up a bit late for his shift, as he wasn't used to the timings. He quickly got on his uniform and began his usual checkup on the rooms. But when he reached Anne's room, he noticed it was unlocked and empty. He went inside the room and took his flashlight out to see for any clue, but he felt a sharp pain on the back of his head. Someone had hit his head hard, and Frank fell to the floor. After some time, he finally regained his footing, and he remembered what happened. Frank quickly tried to call for the other caretaker, but no one was there. This night he was all alone. As he was walking through the corridor, he heard the giggles of a girl, Anne. But those giggles seemed like that of a much younger girl, maybe an 8-year-old. He followed the giggles and finally stopped near a window. Suddenly, he heard the scream of a man and woman behind him. It seemed like the scream came from the room just adjacent to him. The doors were jammed, but he managed to power through and get inside. Frank took out his flashlight and surveyed the room. It was nothing but an old storeroom with some junk, and nothing more. He then refocused his attention back on the window. The window overlooks the backyard, which stretched quite a bit. and there, he saw that Anne was digging up dirt with her hands. This time, Frank kept his eyes on her as he walked down the stairs and confronted her. Frank asked her what she was doing, and all she replied was, "Searching." Frank questioned even more, and even took his baton out, but Anne seemed unfazed. Finally, Anne left a long sigh and told him she's digging for her body. Frank was taken aback by the statement, and further asked her. She explained to him that when she was 8, she had killed her dad and mum in the storeroom. After that, this place was turned to an institute for the criminally insane, as my relatives donated the house for the cause. And she was the first person. But after a year here, some patients killed her and buried her somewhere in the backyard. She'd been trying to find herself for the past 10 years. Frank stood back after hearing this. His whole body was shaking. He tried to muster up some courage and pull Anne away, but when he reached for her, his hands went right through her body, like she was some mist. She turned around and warned Frank if he told anyone about this, she would come for his family in New York. Frank's body turned cold when he heard that. And the next day, he quit, never to return to the place ever again.
Subscribe today, or beware.